Let's test it here in a
The
second.
horror must be stopped. Obstacles destroyed.
Find a good opportunity. Probably good opportunity. Oh my god, it doesn't do any damage to me. Yeah, this one's easy. Left, right. Up. I'm dead. Shit. Damn, what am I doing, bro? I hit the beam and it's an insta log out. You're in hardcore. Why are you not logging out on that? Why didn't you log, bro? That build. Oh, that sucks. Oh, I deserve that, though.
Do you think you're savage enough to face the land of the damned?
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Everseen here. So we did die on the Chieftain. I died on it yesterday. This is the following day. Since then, I was trying to do a Juggernaut. I'm probably going to do Earth Shatter Juggernaut now, just to farm up something for another build. But anyway, let's talk about this build a little bit, some of the pros and cons, and, you know, just things to look out for when you're progressing with this build. I think this build, for starters, is very good for Eater and Exarch. It is the most free I've ever done those bosses, even more than Righteous Fire. It's also really good for the Elder and Shaper fight. It's also good for Maven. I died in Maven, but that was a user error. That is just because simply when you hit the beam in the last phase of Maven, that stops your regen. You should log out with this character because you technically lose everything that is the heart and soul of this character, which is the regen. So right now, as I'm sitting here with 0 buffs on, I have 968 life regeneration. Obviously, we're using 3 War Cries in the build. We're using Seismic Cry, Enduring Cry, and Ancestral Cry. Ancestral Cry is capping us to our 90% max res, and we are getting a ton of life regeneration from Enduring Cry. So when Enduring Cry is up, we have almost 3,000 life regen. I was trying to fit in an Immortal Flesh, but resistances were kind of being a pain in the ass, so I left out the Immortal Flesh. But with Immortal Flesh, it's like 3,400 regen or something. And that's without catalysts, too, on the belt. So this build has ridiculous regen. No flasks up. I have 18,000 armor. Right now, I'm rocking a 6-link on Conquest Lamellar, which is basically almost 5k flat armor. So I'm using Iron Reflexes so that I can get the double bonus, right? So evasion and armor rating. So I've got that additional PDR as well on it, so that was really good. And I have also both physical damage taken as Ellie for fire and cold damage. So I have the 10% on the body armor and 6% on the helmet. So this build has a very, very good sustain. Like I have, you know, 33 or 3k regen, basically 90 max res, some physical taken as elemental, 34k armor with nothing up but my War Cries. And we have our War Cries up every, you know, 5-ish seconds, and our buffs last for well over that. So we have 100% uptime on our War Cries, and we also get 6 endurance charges every single time we War Cry. So this build is really good. I actually might play this again. I just don't want to play it right now. I personally don't really like damage over time builds, and this is basically a whole, like, I'm using Sunder. I was kind of experimenting with Earthquake. I didn't really like it. I like Sunder as a skill. You could use Ground Slam of Earth Shaking. That's another option. I just really liked Sunder. Sunder felt really good for clear. But yeah, another thing too is if I did get a 6-link for my War Cries, I was going to do Enduring Cry, Ancestral Cry, more duration, Seismic Cry, Urgent Orders, and then also a Corrupting Cry. So for anybody that doesn't know what Corrupting Cry does, it's similar to General's Cry, where it will support other War Cries. So what it does is it applies corrupted blood to enemies. So we're scaling physical damage over time with this build. So, I mean, we get tons of physical damage per, you know, like the corrupted blood, and then we get lots more dot multis. So this is just extra damage for when you're mapping. So you just slot that in to your your 6th slot. Right now I got Vitality, but obviously we would put Vitality down here because I have an empty socket. You know, I'm using Bleep Slam, faster attacks, Crossblink. I'm using Pride, Eternal Blessing. We're a Blood Magic build. Molten Shell, cast some damage taken. This could be put to Immortal Call at this point of the build. I just didn't do it yet, and I didn't test whether or not the endurance uptime was going to be good. But every 5 seconds is normally when an Immortal Call would proc, and every 5 seconds is when our Enduring Call will give us full endurance charges. There's also another thing we could have done is do endurance charge gained every 15 seconds on our body armor. We only have 10 seconds of duration though, so that we would probably have to grab this duration node and also this duration node in order to make it work. So the tree is pretty straightforward. You want to be going for the endurance charges on each side, so you're stretched pretty much to just this left side of the tree. You can't do much. You can go over here. My next route was to go for spell suppression cap, so that was going to be making the build even more tanky. Like, this is a really, really tanky option for a build. Like, all my flasks up, I'm using basalt, granite, and jade to give that much more, like, flat and then percentage more armor. So with everything up, I've got 70k armor. So that's really good, and my pieces are not even crazy. I have almost 1200 on my helmet. That's kind of crazy. I've got almost 1200 on my boots. That's also really good. And then I've got about 500 on my gloves. So, you know, getting spell suppression, it's going to make it so these are going to probably not be as much for the flat armor and evasion and whatever. But yeah, anyway, prefixes are kind of hard when you're trying to do spell suppression suffix. I would only do that at a higher budget, because you have to do like reforge on like suffixes cannot be changed with your spell suppression. Also on the helmet here, I have 17% increased life regeneration rate. I also have 20% increased life regeneration rate. Those are really good stats to go for. I also have flat regen on both of these pieces. So this guy has just mega sustain, right? 90 max res is just huge, and 70k armor is like a lot better than what Chieftain was ever before. And I have 177 dex so that I can use the Conquest Lamellar. And yeah, basically I would take Mage Bane and go through this route and get spell suppression cap. So I would probably go for, you know, the helmet, the gloves, the boots, and then this one I might keep additional PDR just unless I needed the spell suppression. I would put it on the chest piece as well. But yeah, that's basically it. I've got Sunder linked with overexertion, melee physical damage, brutality, fortify, and then ruthless. So ruthless felt really nice. You could put volatility in as well. I was experimenting. I found ruthless was really good because every third attack was just a massive hit. If you're doing Fist of War, normally when you Fist of War, it's the first attack is Fist of War, the second attack isn't, and then the third attack is going to be another Fist of War. So that in combination with Ruthless is giving us a really big hit on our third hit. See, it didn't do it there, but most of the time when you're clearing, you're going to be doing this, and then every third hit, right? So if you're just sitting there attacking, it's not going to, but every other hit seems to be Fist of War. Fist of War is just going to give us most of our damage, right? And we're basically getting a 7 link because of the Chieftain Ascendancy, which gives us level 20 Fist of War in our body armor. So you have to have the 6 link in your body armor in order to get the 7 link. But yeah, that's basically the build. Other things that I could have improved on were dot multi on the amulet. I did get a decent axe, but you could get a much, much better axe than this. Basically, the way you would do it is Essence of Contempt until you got physical damage and accuracy hybrid, like a really high roll, and then do some Veiled Orb shenanigans to get, you know, the unveil for T1 percentage fizz, which gets you closer to like 200% fizz. Could also start with a better base with more quality on it, and then you could also further enchant it for more physical damage. So you want big physical damage, but you also want the damage over time multiplier. So this piece alone is stacking us 55 dot multi, which is huge for the build. And I also threw in some points here for 12% more dot multi. I changed from the POB a bit. I could definitely take off like these and like a couple other things that I added to just push up into suppression. I'm level 97. So yeah, basically I could go into clusters too. And then if I go into clusters with this, I would probably drop this and go for just 5 endurance charges and push into here for using a cluster jewel setup. That would definitely get you much more damage. And I was also going to take Savage Wounds next to try and get Bleeding Inflicts faster. So I switched out the 30% increased blood damage stance, like with doing Bleeding You Inflict deals damage 15% faster, which just gives you more bleed damage. Basically, on a max hit, I was sitting at around, I'd say probably 2 to 2.5 million bleed DPS. So I'll just jump in this. I don't know what this map is, but I'll just showcase it really quick, show you guys kind of what the build's like at a higher state. I need a better weapon, though, for this build to feel really, really good. So every friggin' pack in this thing, like, just gets obliterated. It's not a problem at all. The league mechanic isn't going to be in this map, but as you can see, you basically just go through the whole map with nothing, with no problems. And once you get to like a tanky rare, you just hit it a couple times, you get the Ruthless proc, and then it just dies instantly. So right there, you can see the Ruthless proc on the rare monster. You might not be able to see it that great, but I'll try and get to the boss, and then we can definitely see the Ruthless in action. It's a little slow, is another con that I had with the build. I found that, you know, mapping, it's okay. It just feels a bit slow, though. And for bossing, it just feels slow, too. Like, I was using Intimidating Cry to give me more movement speed, which felt really nice, and I was mapping with pretty much just 84% max res. I have a lot of jewels on the build that are giving me max res. That's another thing, too, is if I had better jewels, I would probably rather go for, you know, waiting and then going for that kind of thing. Don't really like using Ancestral Call. It really doesn't provide much benefit other than like just elemental resistances and max res, which is not very nice. And I would rather use Intimidating Cry because it's just so much better. But yeah, volatility, I really didn't like it because you hit some low bleeds, but some people might like it. On bosses, I'm doing, you know, all my war cries, plus I'm doing Battle Mage's Cry linked with vulnerability. This is going to give us that aggravation chance and as well, you know, just more physical damage taken. So, you know, the boss is not like crazy damage. This is what I mean by, you know, the bleed damage. It's like you're basically only doing 2 million, 2.5 million a second, right? So it's not like a true like a hit build that does like 3 million hit damage per second. It's just a damage over time build. Like obviously, yeah, you're getting like a big bleed, but it's only like 2.5 million DPS, right? So, and the amount of investment that it takes to get to this point is a little bit annoying. But as a league start scenario, like you can definitely have the tankiness here to like take on some pinnacle bosses, and you can do that on a 5-link, like no problem at all, right? And I was doing that, but I just wanted to get a 6-link and really like just do it quickly, to be honest. But I was running through Exarch balls like it was nobody's business, 90% max res, and you know I had lots of armor. I have like 6,000 HP on this character. I have Vitality on my life with Pride and Eternal Blessing as my 1 aura. So, you know, I have tons of life regen when everything's up. You know, 3k life regen with 90 max res on a Fireball on Exarch is a joke. You can run through like 2 or 3 of them. I think my life only went down maybe like 1,000 health, right? So that's nice. Eater, you also just like can't really die to him. He's pretty pretty weak when you have 90 max lightning res with the regeneration as well. Pretty much the regeneration and the 90 max res goes like hand in hand on a chieftain. And I had much experience with this when I did my penance brand chieftain, so that's where I have kind of that prior knowledge of like you really want like decent regen and the max res. So but that's about everything, guys. I think I will update the POB and stuff just a little bit, but I don't think there's much to change other than getting like, you know, a better weapon and getting more dot multi on just areas on gear like the amulet, and then going for a cluster jewel setup for exerted attacks and also a 8-slot 12% physical damage one with, you know, 3 notables on it. And yeah, that's about it. So that's all that I was going to take like further with the character. But anyways, I grabbed also this damage over time per endurance charge, so 18% multi, right? Just, you know, you're pretty much trying to stack as much physical damage as you can and as much multi as you can. Another thing too is I would have liked to anoint Veteran Soldier for fizz damage over time and a little bit of flat life. Pretty much just for the fizz damage over time. There might be other better anoints, but this was just the one that I had my eyes on. And I think I was using Hatchet Master, yeah, just for, you know, onslaught and a little bit more attack speed and some more damage with ailments, so that's always good, right? But anyways, guys, I don't think I'll play this build again right away. I do want to stray towards more hit-based and not so much a dot character. But this character is like kind of, I would rate it probably like a 7 out of 10. The progression is kind of what holds me back from wanting to play this build, and it does feel quite slow kind of going. But if, you know, if you're a casual gamer or if you whatever and you just want a decent tanky build to progress through the campaign or whatever, like this is a perfect build, and it'll get you all your void stones. Like I was doing Shaper Fight, and with all my endurance charges up and the max res and the life regen, I could just stand in Shaper Beam and not take any damage, right? So that's kind of what you want. It behaves similarly to like an RF build, but tankier. So Anyways, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this build if you did follow along with it. And I'll have my PoE profile and stuff in the description. You can reference this character if you want. This character is not like 100% like the POB that I developed. That was more of a like pre-planning thing, and this was more like in action. So some things have obviously changed. There's other things here that you can take out that I have allocated. Like, you know, you can take off this Fizz multi if you don't want to and push into suppression. There's a lot of different versatile options to choose from. And obviously you want like increased damage with bleeding and max res. You kind of want max life, right? And 6k life with that amount of sustain is a pretty tanky character. This is a very good league start though for someone who just is getting into hardcore, wants to, you know, get better at hardcore, but doesn't want so much of the risk. And yeah, I just flubbed. I got a little too cocky on Maven, and I just should have logged out as you normally do when you hit a degen beam. Anyway, I will catch you guys in the next one, and peace.